welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast. I'm PJ Noodleman, and joining us on the podcast is Mr. Marty Melo. He is the Director of Operations and Sales with the ASA STARS Tour. And Marty, are you also working with the Midwest Tour as well, or primarily STARS?
Well, right now I'm putting a lot of energy into the STARS National Tour, but operationally, strategically, yes, that's under our umbrella, of course. Track Enterprises, Bob Sargent acquired the Midwest Tour along with the CRA a couple years ago. So, yes, that is under our umbrella. Greg does a good job with that touring series, so he's kind of off and running with it, and he, of course, is involved in our meetings, and we help him where he needs help.
So, how did you actually get your start in motorsports? I mean, how old were you when you knew I want to work with this?
I knew. I remember going to the dirt tracks back in my early days and playing at the track and watching dirt, but the old programs, and my mom would do the timing and scoring and write them in the books. And so I've been exposed to motorsports as far as I can remember back. That was out in the Oregon area, Northern California. But really, I think I knew I had a passion to go in, and I wanted to do more. Probably about the 2005 timeframe is when I started acquiring assets to open up my first super late model team in Redding, California.
And who did you have driving for you at that time?
That time it was a gentleman named Neil Gordon. He was like a track champion at Shasta Speedway, but very localized. He wanted to branch out, run some of the bigger shows at the time. So I had him, and we did grow. Somewhere in there within the first 2 years, we switched drivers to a guy named Kyle Katna. He was very good. He did great for us, and he kind of propelled our organization, and we grew from some local, mostly and some regional to what was called then the North State Challenge Series, which was kind of all over Northern California, super late model, open comp type deal. And then we started running some in then it was the NASCAR Southwest Tour before they closed that down. And then we progressed into the K&N West Series. So that was a good progression.
So you owned a team then for a while, so you really have a good perspective on what that all entails.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I did. And out there at the time, Bill McAnally was very strong, and he was the guy that we all looked up to on the K&N stuff, the ARCA stuff. And so he helped me get going a little bit there. That's when they had the spec motors and those kind of composite body time era. So yeah, I mean, that's where I learned, and that led into obviously marketing. I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school for marketing. So I call it street smarts. But with that being said, I had some great people around me. Dennis Bickmeyer was one of them. At the time, he was the president of California Speedway. He then went on to do Michigan Speedway and finished his career with NASCAR running the Richmond. So he really helped me, not only with connections, but how to do the marketing stuff at the higher levels. But at the time, I was a fire captain by trade, so it's quite interesting.
Oh, wow. Boy, you had probably some weird hours that you were keeping during all that time.
Yeah, it was good. The fire service is you get a lot of time off. You do shift work. So I was at the station for 24, so 72 hours and 4 days off. So on my 4 days off, I was running the motorsports side mostly.
Wow. So it sounds like you were always anywhere but behind the wheel. Were you ever behind the wheel driving?
Nope. I tested playing around in our car at Shasta Speedway once. It was a super late model. I'm pretty sure they had it governed down, but I never again. I'm all good without getting in those things.
Why do you say that? Was it just a tough experience?
I think I was afraid to crash it because I had to pay for it. It's my car. So, no, I've never driven. I've never really had that desire, and I'm not super mechanically inclined. I know enough just to get me in trouble, but I think that's helped because I can focus on the running business aspects, operational side aspects of motorsports, and then the marketing, of course, which is huge and needed these days and even back then.
Yeah, for sure. You really seem to have incredible people skills, and I think that that's helped you probably parlay every next opportunity in your life.
Yeah, I've been told that, and that's a good thing. That comes naturally, I think, for myself and for some folks that have the gift of gab, I guess they say. But yeah, I mean, anytime you could you're comfortable speaking to people, or have that gift, and then you have some knowledge base behind it, it naturally comes, right? So yeah, and I've had great opportunities. Junior Joiner Motorsports out in Southern California. He was getting ready to go truck racing with Thor Sport. He was a, I think, 3-time truck champion for Matt Crafton. So I worked in his program doing competition director and marketing for his West Coast super late model programs when he was out truck racing before he went full time. And so I got to work with him, and I did some stuff back east for some big teams as an independent contractor. And I mean, it's just the relationships you make in racing, as everyone knows. And it just kind of kept going from there. And then I was really, I really caught a break. I hadn't been exposed to dirt, and it's such a fascinating, different world than our asphalt, right? And I was able to go to work for Rico Abreu. Worked just shy of 2 years for him, and what an experience. He treated me great. But I learned so much from him. He's the king of promoting himself. He has built all of his platforms 100% himself. Of course, he brings in people like myself, and he brought in Molly Helmuth for a while there too, also to help elevate his stuff. But he did his own social, his own marketing, his own merchandise sales. So when you really get to work with someone like that for almost 2 years and see what they do, you just pick up more traits, right?
Yeah. What was one of the best lessons you ever learned from Rico?
I think multiple revenue avenues for racing. He would always say that is we've got to have streams of revenue coming in everywhere. So whether that's I think that's where I'm trying to help elevate that in the Asphalt Stars National Tour right now. We would focus on, of course, his job was to go out and make his sponsors happy that either he brought or I brought, and manage those, because that equals revenue. Then it run well equals revenue with the purse money, and his merchandise sales, which his wife did a wonderful job at that. She kind of headed that up for him, but he was always involved. Merchandise equaled revenue from fan base, right? So social media equaled fan base, which equaled revenue, ticket sales, merchandise sales. So I think really it was always there. I mean, we always think about that, but it was a very strong focus of his to his staff to focus on revenue streams always coming in.
Yeah. It seems to me, and you probably have seen this, working in the dirt for a while, that dirt seems to have so much more figured out than asphalt. I mean, it seems like it maybe just seems this way to me, that they're all pulling in the same direction, and asphalt seems to be struggling. And I know you're working on that, but what is, if you could put your finger on, like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 things that really need to kind of coalesce to help bring it to where it needs to go? If you could wave your wand, what would it be?
You'd have to wave it for a little bit. That's the $1 million question, really. I mean, I if I knew that, I'd get a big pay raise, because I would wave my wand and make it happen for everybody. But I think right now we're trying to. I'm trying very hard to work on that, as others, and I think the one thing there is the interaction. The fans come not necessarily for the series; they come for the drivers, and then the series is there to help support the drivers' fans. Of course, they're making ticket sales, but they support the drivers on the midway autograph sessions. They're helping organize all those. The drivers are essentially pulling their merch trailers in and selling and going to the autograph sessions, but that's really organized by the series. So I think them working together on that is key. I think the length of the shows is big. There's so many things to pick from nowadays, to where to go. You go to an asphalt race, it could be 2-3 days sometimes of sitting at the track, and then the main day you're there all day, even as a fan. So there's so much to pick from. Hockey, baseball, I mean, you name it. And so how can we capture that fan? I think the time the fan wants to be at an event with the new generation that we're trying to capture is less. Our hardcores, they're there the day before during practice, right? But the new ones want to kind of come in, see the show, have fun, and then get out. So trying to figure out how to manage that, because it's different from dirt and asphalt, obviously. But So I think just the interaction with the series and the drivers is big, and the series supporting the drivers. And I mean, they have, don't get me wrong, they have their issues too, between that. But right now, that's one of my big focuses that we identified very upfront is just really trying to build these relationships and trust back with the drivers and teams, that it's not all about Track Enterprises and Bob Sargent. It's about the teams too. And if we don't do it together, they won't have a place to race, and we won't have drivers, so none of us will be successful. So it's a little bit, it's always been there. Track Enterprises has done that from the get-go, but sometimes it takes a person that's dedicated to go work on those projects. Bob is so busy, so busy. I mean, he doesn't take a day off, an hour off. So, and it's hard for him to nurture those relationships sometimes one-on-one, because drivers and teams sometimes can be needy, and so can we. So I think that's a big piece of it right there, is getting the trust. And I think this platinum program that we're rolling out, that you'll probably touch on, is kind of the first real step to show that hey, we're stepping out now, and we heard you the last 2 years, so here it is. Now, are you guys going to step back and then embrace us and come with us?
Yeah, let's start first though with the schedule. It's a 12 race schedule, and you guys are doing a pretty cool swing, really, kind of hitting all of the who's of tracks, if you will. How much time and effort went into actually getting the schedule nailed down?
A lot. I mean, a lot. You've got, everyone thinks you just pick tracks and grab tracks. Well, it's not that easy, and that's a lot where I've been learning in this role too. Our series directors are involved heavily on the ground level stuff. Our race directors, and then of course I'm helping on some things that they haven't thought about, for instance. But the schedule, it takes a lot of effort. It's not just saying, hey, do you want to race? It doesn't work like that. We got to, at least at our level of racing that we're trying to accomplish and put on, we've got to look at marketing regions. And we can't just give up an area and want a national sponsor, right? So we've got to cover that gamma, or look at our partners where they're strong, where they're at and strong at, and make sure we're racing there if we can. So that's the marketing side. The other sides of it is the travel and costs. And I get it. Everyone says how expensive it is for the teams, and we need to bring the cost down for the teams, and we do, and we're trying. It's a constant battle, I think, and they've been battling that, but well before I got here. But remember, our cost is tremendous too. I mean, when we're booking 30 hotel rooms every event, for our staff to come, and we're moving 30 plus people, and so we're doing very similar things. So of course we want to bring that cost down, right? And time away from home, and time away from, I'd say a handful of our people are full-time. A lot of them are, they come to the race, but they still have other jobs. Our officials, our tech staff, our broadcasters, it goes on and on. So we have to look at all that, and the cost, and then it even goes farther than that, what the track wants and for us to bring, and what we want to be able to bring. And that goes into lap count. I'm learning all that. That's series director stuff and Bob, but lap count's important. We want to be a premier series and run, we kind of have a standard that we won't run less than 200 laps. But at the same time, we are very listening to the teams, that we don't want a bunch of 400 lap, because that puts time on their motors, time on their drivetrains, and that's rebuild time for them, and extra sets of tires. And so we're trying to find that happy spot, I think.
Let's talk now about that platinum program that you have going on. I know you said earlier, we had you on the LTN Hour, which is a radio show that I'm part of out of Milwaukee. You said that you have 10 drivers committed already.
We do. We have him, and I'm pleasantly surprised. Our goal was 10 when we started working on this, and we were real hopeful for 12, and that's a big shift. We've been sitting around 5 or 6 the last 2 years full time, so to be able to double that would be tremendous, right? And because that's our core base, and then we're trying to figure out how to support and bring in and promote our filler drivers that are jumping in for half a season, or just maybe jumping in when we do with the Wisconsin swing, right? So that's what will elevate our car counts. We have a goal to be to 28 cars car count average, which it's a high goal. We were sitting around 21 point something average last year. So that, we got some work to do there. So yeah, that is big for us to be at 10 already, and we just pushed it out 48 hours ago. We had another one signed today. We're probably going to end up about 13 or 14 is what I'm guessing.
Very nice. Very nice. So I won't ask you who they are. People should just go to the ASA Stars or the Star, what is it? Stars National Tour.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
our website or any of our platforms. We're across the Facebook and Twitter, X, all that. So we've been announcing those, and some of them the teams are signing up, and then they're teasing a little bit with an announcement and you'll probably see those driver announcements for Rhett Jones Racing, one of Wilson's today. They'll probably be announcing those this week, and then we'll follow up with the driver reports behind them.
And you're not capping how many of the platinum packages.
No, and that's kudos to my boss. I mean, I called them and said, boss, this is going great, but because this is fun, it's a lot of funding there, and that's my job to cover that funding. That's what I was hired to do, marketing, and we've got a big portion of it covered, but not all of it. Even before we launched, we're working on some new announcements. But so Bob stepped up and said, "Okay, let's go ahead and launch this. I like it. I believe in it. Let's do it, and I'll go ahead and make up the difference for now, and hopefully we bring that sponsorship." Now we did that off 10 car program, like I said. So every car that goes up, it's now we're running out of pocket out of general fund. And I called and said, we need to think about capping this. And he said, not going to happen. So, this is what we asked for. This is what we want. We'll figure it out. And so he's 100% behind it. And he's happy for the teams and the drivers that are going to get an opportunity to be part of it.
That's exciting. Can you share a little bit more about what's all involved with that platinum program?
Yeah, I can, and I'll put on my readers here. But I mean, it's basically there's been a little bit of talk out there. We have a great social media guy, Alex, that's monitoring everything for me, and he'll text me if we get something negative posted on different platforms, not just ours. We're monitoring as much as we can, and we've got the attitude. I don't want everything pulled down. I mean, the negative is negative. It drives conversation sometime. Now, if it's really raw or something, yeah, we'll pull that if it's on our platforms, but really it's a $655,000 program value. Okay. So we base that off 10 teams, like I said. So about $65,500 value per team that comes in contracts with us. So that's a big number times 10. Now everything above that, which we're going above that, is even more, right? But it's going to include, one of the goals from the get-go, some of the strong voices in this super late model world with Stephen Nazi and Bubba Pollard and even Derek Thorne out on the West Coast. They voiced from the get-go, if this is truly a Stars National Tour and this is the high platform, then our start money at the bottom needs to be good too, not just the top, And so they've always been asking for 3,000 to start from day one, before me, and I knew that from being on the racer side. And so we looked at how to do that. And what we did is we're going to take all of our races this year, which we were very close to that last year. I think one or two was not, but they will be this year. Minus the platinum program, it will be $1,500 to start. Take the green for anybody. Now the platinum program is going to give you an additional $1,500 to start. Okay, it's bonus money. So that puts you at that 3,000 mark. That benchmark is on my whiteboard over there. I mean, I got a 3-year plan to get everybody there, hopefully. But that's a lot of money. It's about $700,000 to do that based on our current car count. So I'd love to have everybody have 3,000 to start out the gate, but we got to start somewhere, and we're going to start with our foundation and go up. So 3,000 starts big. Where else can we save the drivers money? Pit passes. Those, it's expensive, these 2 and 3 day shows, up to $60 a weekend a minute, or more per pit pass. And these teams, I don't know that there's many teams there that are less than 4 people now. I mean, upwards of 10 to 12 people some per team. So we're putting in 4 pit passes per team, per race, and just do some savings there. And people act like I've got some comments and texts. Oh yeah, that doesn't cost you anything. It does, because we're going to these facilities. We don't own any of these facilities ourselves, right? So we're still paying that facility for these pit passes. They're not gonna let us do that, right? So it is still a cost to us. And some of the other things we worked on is the Track TV subscriptions. That's our Track TV platform that's growing very nicely. They're about $299 for an annual subscription. So we're going to go ahead and two subscriptions to that per team. They could do what they want with them. They could use them themselves. They could give them to family, friends. They could get creative, which I'm trying to pitch, is to do maybe some type of promotion with them to drive attention to them or for their sponsor. Entry fees. The entry fees will be waived this year for those platinum. They won't pay. Those are upwards of $200 per race. So it's simple math. And then you really start diving into the digital assets commercial space. And I'll go ahead and release some numbers there. That commercial, so we're going to give each platinum team a 30-second commercial spot across all of our platforms, Track TV platforms. So whether they use it to promote themselves, their team, or a sponsor they already have, or they use it into a sponsor package to help upsell their team package, it's up to them. And I'll give them some guidance on that if they need it. And that's got a big value. It's hard to quantify that, but with our current Track TV sales deck numbers that we're actually releasing to the teams, that's very uncommon. But I'm releasing that to the team so they could sell themselves. That's probably worth about a $30,000 to $35,000 value right there. And I know that that's factual because I've sold several commercial spots myself for just under that we've closed on. So that's we put a $24,000 minimum value on that, right? And then we get some social aspects where assets where they'll be able to have a premiere post every month of whatever they want when they're going to work with our social team on that. And we could focus on, again, a sponsor, their team, a promotion, whatever they want us to do. Again, that's got value. So it goes, what else do we got on there? T-shirt vendor spot. That's merchandise spot. We say T-shirt vendor, but spot at the tracks in the midway. I want those drivers to promote themselves, sell T-shirts. The fans want it. The fans want it. And you hear it all the time. And the reason being, a lot of tracks, because of the state of the industry, they have to try to sell everything they can, right, at a facility. They have to. And it's hard for a racer. They get frustrated when you can't sell your stuff unless you pay them, roughly $250 to $450 per race a spot, right? Yeah. And that's frustrating to them. Ty Majeski is an example. There's no reason Ty Majeski should be having to sell his stuff out of a trailer or out of the parking lot because he can't get a spot or they want to upcharge that, right? So whoever that may be, and I get why it's been done, but so we basically said, well, we'll fix that. Every one of our platinums is going to have one, and I'll go a step farther than that. Any team that wants one, I'll help facilitate trying to get that for them because I think it's important for the fan base. And we also have our ASA Stars National merch trailer now at every event this year, so that would be focusing on Hoosier and our ASA swag, basically. But we will be putting select drivers in and rotate them in there. And that's another concept where, hey, you bring us the stuff, our staff will we'll take care of the credit card charges for you, and we will give you the profits on it. We're not going to take anything on it. But you need to cross promote with me, and we're going to do an autograph session out of that trailer for 30 minutes somewhere in there, right?
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of really neat things like that. Again, that came right out of the dirt world, right? So that whole package comes together, and there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, the value's there. I've had teams already call me and say, I know they're selling their commercial spots already because they'll say, do we have to disclose what we sell it for? And I'm like, nope, you could give it away, sell it for $1 million, but if you sell it for $1 million, come to work for me, right? So,
so I love that you're doing that, though. That when I was in radio, I actually sold race car sponsorships that way too, and I don't know if everybody fully realizes how valuable that is. What you're putting in there for them and you being right there willing to help with that whole marketing thing and help guide the drivers and the teams. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're putting a lot of stock in that. And man, if these teams and everyone says, oh, they don't need that, these big teams that are signing the contract, I'll tell you this. Don't I got frustrated today with someone, at least he called me on it. And I said, well, you can't tell me that they're going to do it anyways, because we've only had 5 teams average the last 2 years and we're already at 10 right now. So teams are signing up because of it. So there is value there. And I think once we get over that hump of the back and forth of no one's trying to screw anybody here. They're really not. We're like opening up our arms, and I'll give it to the teams and drivers. They came back so fast in 48 hours on me that it's consumed me for the last 2 days, and that's beautiful. I was hopeful of that, but you never know, right?
Right.
And I had a team today say, hey, I got a great idea. How about after the first race, this platinum, but we know who the platinum driver, will you put on a Zoom call for the platinum teams to talk about the marketing side and how to utilize this? Now I'm getting feedback from the drivers. What a concept, right? Absolutely. I ran it by Bob today. He says 100% run with it. So there you go, right? That's what we want, them to be sustainable, right?
I kind of feel like you were the spark that was needed to help make everything coalesce, because I think there were quite a few noses out of joint over several different things as they were first getting started. But I feel like you are the spark, and I think it is that marketing and sales piece that really brings the two sides together, because money talks, right? So, and they both need that. Yeah. So I do feel like you are the spark that's going to help to catapult things.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of that. I hope so. And I think, and I say it all the time, I don't want to take away from any, this foundation was there. I walked into this forum. I say it all the time. I pinch myself because I'm kind of getting, it was right there. It just needed, like you say, that spark or that person that had more time to focus on it, because everybody's so busy with all the race stuff. And for whatever reason, I didn't build this myself in 4 months. It was just sitting there brewing. And it was that little bit of extra time of a person and the knowledge to come in and then the trust of my boss to let me run with it. And that it has taken off. And I tell people, don't think for a minute Bob Sargent didn't plan. He knew what he was doing on that. When he called and said, hey, do you want to come to work for me? He's watched me for several years. We've been passing and we had conversations about stuff. And I say it right now, he's sized me up for 2 years. And when the timing was right, he went after someone, and I was lucky enough to be me.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I'm excited to have you as part of that too. I feel I've heard you talking with Toby on the phone. I mean, anybody who watches this podcast knows that's my husband. Yeah. He has tremendous respect for you as well too, and he has even said that you have the right touch, if you will, with people to be able to communicate and to help calm down people who get all nutted up, and you have a good demeanor about yourself.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, he's a role model to me. There's just some great. That's what I'm talking about. Those people in the industry, and actually Toby's one of the guys I went to when I got this job offer, and I really had some conversation with him and a couple of people I did, and he was one of them, and. We talked about it, and he was like, "Well, I don't know," but he ultimately guided me. It said, "I think you can do it," and so he's on the racer side of the fence. So having that relationship for him and others to hear things and try to understand what's going on the operational side, and I say again, Scott Minlin and Tim Bryant and Nicholas, there's a lot of people, Brad Hockaday. I mean, I could go on, Freddie Query, our tech guy, all those guys are what's making that happen at that track and the race level. I came in as an ops role at a very strategic level, like big picture. For example, it was kind of like, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to go up to the Midwest. And there was even some talk like, oh, it's, the rules and this and that. And it wasn't so pleasant the last couple of years between the Stars Tour coming up here, right? And I think I got their attention. So we can't give. It was just straight marketing. Take the racing stuff aside, guys. From a strategic standpoint, I cannot sell a national sponsorship. We already don't go to the West Coast by design, And now you want me to gut the entire Midwest out of our geographic area because we can't figure it out, you know? So we need to figure this out. We need to be open-minded, and I need that market from a strategic standpoint. And once we got that everyone on board with that, it really loosened the chains and everyone started working together. And then I had someone like Todd Thielen, a relationship with him to lean on. And he it didn't take a lot, but he was hesitant. But he's like, you know, I'll give you guys a shot. Let's go. And he wants us. Don't get us wrong. I mean, he knows that we're going to put on a good show there. But he's the first to step up. And of course, we got Greg McCarnes that runs the Midwest Tour, and Madison and others. That's an easy fit. So yeah, I think it's going well. But there's
how were you able to get everybody on that same page? I mean, that's a lot of roosters in the room.
It is. It is. You know, you pick your battle, especially being the new guy, right? And I'm not the first new guy. This position's had a couple go through it, and you know, we had a plan to roll me in kind of softly, and we did that. But I was pretty much steamrolling by Nashville because I was ready to go. So, you know, how do you get them on the same? You just got to make them understand my side of my plate. I don't want to be in the weeds, and I don't want to be down below the 30,000 foot level, getting in tech stuff and race director stuff. And I'll help them administratively or where I need to, what if they ask for it. But I got it, and I do have to pull myself back from that weekly. And so that's not my mess kit, right? So, but strategically, that all has to work together. They're a good product on the track, whether it's the lap count, counting cautions, not counting cautions, when to call the competition yellows, not, you know, restarts, do they go to the back, or you know, what is all the stuff that they're working on still comes into play to me for fan appearance, optics, partnerships. So once I communicated that, and I'd say they started to buy in on it, and then I'm not, now I think I'm getting more and more, we're all getting each other's trust that I'm not really here to get in and run your program. I'm here to help elevate it. And I think once it wasn't easy. It was rough first couple of weeks, but I don't know that there's anyone on our staff and team right now that there's nothing major bad right now. Everyone's rolling. So
that's awesome. I love it. Do you have any other things that you want to highlight before I let you go?
Yeah, no, just our Track TV platform. I'm real excited about that. And again, it gets left to the side sometimes, but that's a very important piece to this too. Of course, we want everybody there buying tickets and sitting there and experience that fan experience. And we're growing the Midway and camping. We want all of that. That's number one. But a lot of times people can't do that, you know, especially with our type of schedule traveling the country, right? And so, that's the next option is tracktv.com. You know, we're over, it's not just the Stars National Tour, the Midwest Tour, the CRA. We have over 100, I think it's over 110 now, broadcasts that we have scheduled already for 25. And so and we're constantly trying to build content. We're only on our third year on that, and no one's really focused on it. We also have a great partner within that, MAV TV. So our Stars National Tour re-airs on Monday nights, a prime time, every one of them. So they're a linear, and we're an app TV. So we're really trying to grow that. Our numbers are good already before we really did anything. We're selling commercial space. You know, we're getting ready to launch. We're supposed to launch January 1st. Technical difficulties, I've been told, slowed it down. We're hoping by the 15th. It's going to be actually on an app now, so you could download the app. So we've already got that going. So that makes it easier for some streaming things and for the consumer just to download it and have it. So Track TV is a very important piece of it, and highlighting again our drivers, our series, all of it. So, and then of course our partners coming back on. Rackley Roofing just came back on this year. That was huge. We were really waiting on them. They were the crutch to a lot of things, but really this platinum program, right? So they came back on. 5-Star Bodies have continued to be a supporter, contingency partner. But more so, they really got in behind our Track TV program. So they bought commercial space. And they actually did a 3-year deal with us. So that's always cool, right?
Heck yeah.
My wife, Pepper Jack Kennels, of course, I sucked her in a little bit. She's helping out with the Rookie of the Year thing that we're going to announce now. So we're bringing in new partners, HD5, Fire Suppression Solutions, one of the ones that's been in my portfolio. They've come on because we have a great safety team, right? And so that's a perfect fit for what they do and implement the stuff they sell and move products. And they're going to be involved in our safety team on a sponsorship level. So all of our sponsors that are coming, they're really good. Now, I got a comment the other day, well, yeah, that's all small stuff, but it all adds up, and some of those aren't small stuff. Some are bigger than you'd think. But we are getting very close to announcing a couple of nice sponsors, and everyone's anticipating. They all know because it's tied to me as El Bendito Yankee Tequila, right? When are you guys gonna? What are you doing with them? And I've been lucky to work with Eric Lands and his team, which he's the CFO for 4 years now, and he'll look at anything I present to him very, very closely. I still have to sell it. It has to make sense for him, right? But I think we're very close to having announcing a partnership at some level there. So hopefully that'll be forthcoming in the next week or two. And there's a few others. So we're excited about it. I think the momentum of getting these interviews helps us. So thank you for having me on twice today, different things. The more we could do that and focus on the markets we're going to, that's the next piece. And, for the Wisconsin folks out there listening, and, that big doubleheader we're having in June on Father's Day weekend is going to be huge. And start thinking about that. There's some cool announcements coming. It's going to be on Friday at Madison and then Sunday at Slinger. And I think there's going to be a Father's Day sweepstakes announced with one of our partners for some giveaway stuff. It's pretty cool. Nice. So there's a lot of cool things coming. But we just got to continue to get the word out and be positive. We all got to be positive and just communicate, and we'll be okay.
Ain't that the truth? Yes. If you have a problem, pick up the phone.
My wife says all the time, communication.
Yes, I say that to Toby all the time. Communication is key to everything, especially here at home.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate you coming on. Congratulations on everything that y'all have achieved so far. And looking forward to a really great 2025 for the ASA Stars Tour.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for taking the time to seek me out. So I appreciate that.